Jesus and the priests. If I love, for example, the political or religious order, then my conversation with its representatives will boil down to praise and eulogy, to the expression of warm feelings and loyal devotion. But what could the 13-year-old Jesus have discussed with the scribes and priests in Jerusalem? The conversation was likely diplomatic, but at its core lay disagreement between Jesus and the priests of the Jewish cult. There were no eulogies. This can be inferred from Jesus' later words and the attitude the priests had toward him. Jesus did not love the temple religious system in Jerusalem. His respectful questions and answers pointed to ideas he would openly express years later. There is ample evidence in Jesus' own words. For instance, "Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." The time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. Or the phrase, "To love God with all your heart, and your neighbor as yourself is more important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices," was said by a scribe, but Jesus approved of it. The climax of Jesus' conflict with Temple Judaism was the expulsion of the merchants from the temple. Originally, trade took place outside the temple, on the slopes of the Mount of Olives or in the Kidron Valley. One reason it was moved into the court of the Gentiles was the chaos during pilgrimages, when thousands dragged animals through narrow streets to the temple. But another reason was corruption. The official explanation might have been, "We moved the trade inside the temple for the pilgrims' convenience and ritual purity." But in fact, it eliminated outside competitors, ensured priests a profit on every transaction, and turned religion into a component of the financial system. Annas, Hanan, former high priest and father-in-law of Caiaphas, held tremendous influence. His family controlled what was known as Annas' market. According to the Talmud, they were nicknamed the family of Annas, the jaws of jackals, for their greed and ruthlessness. Moving the trade inside the temple gave them monopolistic control. Who could sell, what prices were set, guaranteed income, taxes, animal certification, commissions, and power. Anyone who brought their own animal might be rejected without explanation. These were the opponents Jesus dealt with. From this perspective, these corrupt figures were the true cause of Jesus' death. The Gospels contain a few passages where Jesus does not outright condemn sacrifices. For example, the scribes and Pharisees sit on Moses' seat, so practice and observe whatever they tell you. Or, if you bring your gift to the altar and remember your brother has something against you, leave your gift and go first to be reconciled. However, upon closer examination, these words seem to represent a concession for the uneducated masses, not a commandment for all. To his close disciples, Jesus commanded a break from the Pharisees and priests. He prioritized ethics, love, and inspiration. His ministry demonstrated that religion can be practiced without rituals, sacrifices, or complex services. It appears that in his conversation with the priests and scribes, the 13-year-old Jesus gently tried to convey the idea that worshiping God does not require the burdensome religion built by Judaism. Jesus came to Jerusalem for his first Passover, a bar mitzvah, entering adulthood by Jewish custom. Likely, he was already deeply shaken by the formalism, commercialism, and perhaps the sacrifices in the temple. Would God really desire such rites? Blood, the cries of animals, the stench and smoke from burning meat enveloping the temple. Jesus spent his time in dialogue with rabbis and teachers, not merely asking questions, but debating, challenging, astonishing them with his depth of thought. At this age, he experienced an inner spiritual awakening and began to grasp his unique calling. Most likely, he suffered inwardly, seeing the religious blindness and hypocrisy. Jesus was already a revolutionary of the spirit in his youth, not a destroyer, but an illuminator. He sought to purify religion and return it to the true God. His conflict with Judaism did not begin in adulthood, but in childhood. Yet, he acted with love and patience, not condemnation. Jesus is an example of early spiritual maturity, where emotional sensitivity is combined with strength of will and clarity of purpose. His reply, "I must be about my Father's business," is a conscious life choice, not just a brilliant statement. The age of 12 or 13 is a classic period of identity formation. A child seeks to understand their place in the world. Jesus already had a highly developed sense of morality, self-awareness, and a conscious connection to God as Father. It's an early example of inner autonomy. He does not obediently follow his earthly parents, but his inner Father. Jesus is not afraid to question traditions, even in the presence of educated rabbis. This is not adolescent rebellion, but prophetic honesty and spiritually developed critical thinking. Jesus is polite, listens, does not impose. He respects his interlocutors despite his revelations. He is calm, not hysterical, but firm in what he says. "I must be in my Father's house." The real disagreement between Jesus and Judaism, the reason for his long conversation with the scribes, was the issue of animal sacrifice. Jesus could not accept a religion dominated by fear, blood, and formalism. And this is key to understanding all of his later teachings. Any 21st century person, if transported into the Jerusalem temple or any place with mass animal sacrifice, would be shocked and morally disturbed. During his ministry, Jesus had no intention of organizing or managing temple trade and sacrifices. His focus was elsewhere, teaching and preaching. If the Jewish priests had truly loved God, they would have abandoned the sacrificial system and embraced the message Jesus proclaimed. But the greatest temptation of any religion is the ability to make money by exploiting ancient human instincts. This is what the 13-year-old Jesus spoke to the priests about, that there is a better way to God, a way of love, light, and knowledge, and it is freely open to all who seek it.